Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
Midway USA knows the hobbyist, doing basic gun repairs and upgrades. Midway USA also knows the accomplished professional doing precision work as a trade. At Midway USA, we have the gunsmithing supplies you need, from firearm-specific tools and fixtures to general tools like screwdrivers, punches, stamps, wrenches, hammers, and files. Shop our wide selection of calipers, micrometers, dial indicators, gauges, and other measurement tools. Browse through our site for paint, stain, polish, and finish, as well as bluing and other metal finishing products. For just about everything for gunsmithing, shop MidwayUSA.com.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Hunter Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for the modern hunter. Mossberg, American-built, American-strong. Vineyard Max, deer attractants created for the aroma of success, game feeders, and other innovative hunting products. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from the Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. Welcome to another DSC Campfires. And of all places, I am in San Angelo, Texas today with a very, very dear friend of mine who I've hunted with and done all kinds of things with over the years, Mr. Jerry Baker, and we're sitting in Jerry's trophy room, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Jerry, you've hunted a lot of places.
Yeah, I've hunted a few. I've been very fortunate, Larry, as you well know. I've been blessed. I've hunted on every continent except Antarctic.
But you've been there.
I've been there, but I looked to try to get a tag for a penguin, but they didn't sell them. So I never killed a penguin. But we saw a bunch. But we had a great time. But yeah, I've hunted a lot of places, and it's been a fabulous life. Fabulous life.
We've both been so very fortunate over the years in so many different ways. What got you into hunting?
I actually don't know. I'd like to say it was my dad, but my dad was not a big hunter. But I guess I just fell in love with it. My mom, I had a BB gun like every other kid in West Texas, and killed my first sparrow off of a kind of a like an oil rig water well rocker. When I was 9 years old. Grabbed it by the tail, ran in the house, holding it by the tail, crying like a baby because I had killed that bird. And I remember my mom saying, well, if you didn't want to kill it, why did you shoot at it? I don't remember what I said, but anyway, I was very upset that I'd killed that sparrow. And I do remember, that was right around lunch. She was standing at the stove when I went inside, and I'd probably shot up 40 boxes of BBs before I ever killed the first one. But I do remember that I was out shooting my BB gun again by 2 o'clock that afternoon. I was gone again. The tears were gone, and the BBs were flying. And but anyway, I enjoyed that. Mom got me a little 410, single shot 410 for Christmas when I was 12, and I killed my first 2 doves out of season, sitting in the top of a mesquite tree at my grandfather's place, aimed in between them and killed 2 at one time. Basically, at that time, I was hooked. I was going to hunt. I was going to hunt forever, and had a friend in high school that had a ranch in Menard, and we were able to hunt down there. We were not a rich family by any stretch, and but we were able to hunt whitetails down there. And I killed a little forky whitetail when I was 13, and I've hunted ever since, basically. So had a great time. Great time.
You know, and looking at, as you said, you've hunted on every continent. You've been on Antarctica as well, too. What about some of your favorite hunts that you can remember? You and I have spent a lot of time sitting around campfires and sitting in vehicles, traveling, and in hunting camps telling stories. And there's so many of them that you've told that are just absolutely fascinating to me.
Yeah, we were counting up a while ago. We just had lunch, and we were counting up a while ago. We have known each other now for 38 years. When I moved to Uvalde back in 1986, we've known each other ever since then. And like I said, I've just been extremely fortunate. My favorite hunt, though, probably was one of my first. It was a difficult hunt. It turned out to be a fairly dangerous situation, partly because of error on my part, I'm sure, but also because the guide told me to do something, I did it, and nearly fell off a 20-foot cliff. But anyway, I was able to kill a doll sheep.
Now, wait, let's go back, because you told the story earlier to me when we were just riding around looking at country a little while ago. Tell me about seeing the sheep, crossing the shale, and what happened.
Well, we saw the sheep. We'd been there for like 3 days. We had to cross a creek. We had to cross the creek by, we didn't have any waders with us, so we just had hunting boots because there wasn't but one creek that we had to cross. So you had to cross the creek, throw the waders back to the next guy, and then cross the creek. And fortunately, the waders wound up on the right side of the creek because that's where you were and where you took off from. That happened on the way back, going back to the cabin. But we spent the night out, under a tent in the open, just in a pup tent. And the third day, we actually saw the sheep and went up after them. And my brother, not that it was his fault, but loaded my shells for me because we wanted to make, again, I didn't have any money. I borrowed $7,500 from the bank to go on that hunt. A good friend of mine who arranged that hunt, the hunt cost $3,000 for a doll sheep back in 1978.
Right.
Well, he was an attorney in Anchorage, and he got a 2-for-1 hunt. So the hunt cost me $1,500 and for a doll sheep. And we were hunting, again, $7,500, which my wife allowed me to do back then, which I still can't believe. But anyway, that bought me a gun, it bought me clothes, it bought me an ice axe, which I never used, and boots, it bought me everything, airplane tickets, it bought everything. And we got up to the crest of the hill or mountain that we had climbed, and taken about an hour and a half to get up there, and the sheep were still where we had seen them previously. And my friend of mine, Bill Bankston, and I both said 1, 2, 3 and pulled the trigger. And I'm not sure which shot scared the other one, but both of us shot horribly. And anyway, we do wind up getting our sheep, both of them. But in the process of doing that, I had wounded mine, and my brother, who loaded the shells, loaded them too hot.
Yes.
And the more bullets I sprayed at the animal, and I don't mean shot at, I mean sprayed at the animal, the further they went higher and the further they went to the right. And so I was not hitting, I'd hit him 3 times, but not solidly, and he walked over the other mountain and just completely walked out of sight. So my guide tells me to go down this shale slide, and we could see that it looked like it went all the way to the bottom. Go down the shale slide and just keep going until we got to the bottom and wait on him there, because he was going to go around and help his brother, who was the other guide, with Bill's sheep, because Bill had killed his sheep and he was down. So I take off, and I probably went about 40 yards in the shale. Just, if you've ever done it, you just walk and sliding. Right. And the further I go, the kind of faster I get, and the more semi out of control I get. But I looking down the mountain, and I see the rocks from the shale flying out in front of me in the air, not hitting other rocks, but in the air. Well, even though this was one of my first mountain hunts, I knew better than to think that was a good deal, because it definitely was not a good deal.
No.
And so I wasn't very far from what turned out to be about a 20-foot drop-off. But I knew that I did not want to go off of that bluff with my rifle on my shoulder. No. So I reached up, I looked up and reached up and grabbed my sling, and I was going to throw my rifle off before I went off the edge, because there was no doubt I was going. And when I looked up, just to the left of the shale slide was a big boulder. And I took about 3 steps and just put my hands up and just kind of slammed into that big boulder. I still wasn't close enough to the edge. It was far enough out that with the shale, I couldn't get close enough to see how far it was to the bottom, but I knew it was a long ways. I knew that I would come, if I lived, I would certainly come out with broken bones. And then I had to get back up out of the shale, and it's just literally impossible to climb up. As steep as that was, as
even
you
if
well
it's
know,
not, I've tried it, and it
just
didn't work.
Impossible to climb up shale. So I managed to work my way over to a little ridge that was connected to that boulder, and climbed on my hands and feet up that ridge till I got back to the top of the mountain, and then came down and went back over to where the other guide was, and and Bill Bankston, my friend, and we made it out. And the other guide, not mine, went up over the top of the mountain, found my sheep, put it on his shoulders, and carried it to the creek we were all headed for, and Bill and I both ended up getting our sheep. So it was a fabulous trip. But that's probably, of all the years of hunting, that's probably been my most dangerous. What could have happened has been the most dangerous thing that I've been through.
Well, I remember earlier when we were talking about it, you talked about having to crawl on your hands and knees on this little ledge to get around and some of that too.
It was too sharp to use your knees. I had to use hands and feet.
Hands
I
and
had
feet.
gloves on and feet, not knees. You couldn't dare put your knees down on. I had on wool pants, and you couldn't dare put your knees down on that shale ridge. It was just like razor blades. It was just sharp as it could be. So I used my hands and feet. It wasn't an easy trip by a long stretch.
Well, I have to ask.
But it was a great hunt.
What did that have to do? Did it have any effect as far as your fever for hunting wild sheep?
Oh, just increased it by 1,000%. You know, that was the next thing I wanted to do. I came home and told my wife I knew that if I ever made any money, I was going to hunt more sheep. But out of respect for the sheep that I had just hunted, I would never kill more than one sheep. And I've never killed per species. And I've never killed another one. I've never hunted another doll or any other desert, whatever. I've never hunted another sheep.
But you do have your Grand Slam.
I do have a Grand Slam. Yeah.
Was out of the 4 sheep, was that the most difficult as far as you're concerned, or when you get right down to it, as far as the hunting and everything?
Yeah, that was probably the most difficult. I had, as we were talking a while ago, I had a guide that was an absolute, immensely terrible guide to hunt with. He was a consummate hunter, so everything was a big deal. No matter what happened, it was a big deal. But he was a good hunter.
Right.
And we ended up getting an excellent stone sheep. I ended up getting excellent stone sheep with him because he was a good hunter, and he was persistent. Made no difference how bad the weather was, what was going on. After we killed the sheep, I still had a caribou left that I had a tag for that I wanted to kill. And we'd already killed a moose and the stone sheep, and I had a caribou tag. And we went to a cabin that he wanted us to stay in that night and then hunt caribou out of. And we get to the cabin about 11:30. It's still just barely dusky daylight.
Right.
And we walk in, well, we didn't walk inside. We looked, and the front door, the top hinge of the front door had been torn off, and the door was laid open. We had gotten a grizzly bear inside, and there was flour and sugar and salt everywhere.
Just an
on
absolute
the bed, absolute wreck.
Oh my goodness.
We got it cleaned up enough to cook a little bit of supper, and cleaned it up. Went to bed probably around 2 o'clock. Got up at 5:30. Rode about 2.5 miles probably, and I killed my caribou. So that was a three animal treat for that hunt, and we had a great time. But he was a tough hunter.
He was a tough guy.
Tough guy. Good guy, but a tough guy.
What about some of your African stuff? I noticed Cape Buffalo and sitting here looking at a greater cootie as well too. How'd you enjoy those hunts?
I liked Africa. Africa's not my favorite place to hunt, but I had a great time. I've only been there twice, but probably one of the other places that I really did enjoy, besides Africa, was Tajikistan. Well, I killed a Marco Polo over there, and we had a great time. I'd killed my Marco Polo, and we got up. I was hunting with two guys from California, and one from Oklahoma who was my roommate, and they had killed also. The guy from Oklahoma had not killed anything, so the two guys from California and myself went wolf hunting that next morning.
Really?
Yes, when we got out of bed, and we were kind of standing outside the hut that we were sleeping in, which was very comfortable, had heat, and it was very nice. And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, this is just really, really cold. And I've got on good clothes,
right,
and, parkas and everything. And so I asked the guides, most of them spoke English, and I asked the guide how cold it was. He said, I don't really know. He said, we've got a temperature gauge around over here. So he goes and checks the temperature. He comes back around the building and says, it's minus 45 Celsius. So that's minus 52 Fahrenheit,
yes,
because I calculated it. And so needless to say, it was a little chilly. We didn't, after I found out how cold I really was, I didn't stand out there that much longer. I was all right till I found out.
Yeah.
But that was a great hunt. Killed a very nice Marco Polo. And
yes, you did. We're sitting here looking at it as well too.
Yeah.
Full body mount, just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I made a incredible lucky shot on him. The shot was at 620 yards, and he was straight uphill. And I didn't say I made a good shot. I said I made a great shot.
Right.
Because I hit him hard enough to knock him down, but not to kill him. But we got him. We got him later. But anyway, that was a great hunt also.
Jerry, I've been in a lot of trophy rooms, and this also doubles as your office, obviously. But this is tastefully done. It doesn't even come close. The way you've got things arranged in here, and the categories that you do, and you've got tremendous number of animals in here, but there's actually room between them so you can appreciate them. And so very often that's not the case.
Well,
but this is absolutely gorgeously, beautifully done.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. That over there under the television is a model 1894 3030 Winchester. The buddy of mine that I told you about in that other story, Bill Bankston,
right,
that was his grandfather's gun. And it had a habit of firing but without you pulling the trigger. When you cocked it, a lot of times it would just go off. It was that old. I've got the history on the gun because I checked the serial number, and it was actually manufactured in 1910. So I asked Bill. Bill gave me the gun, and I asked Bill why he did that. He said, "None of my grandchildren hunt. None of my children hunt." He said, "You need this gun." I said, "I probably don't need this gun, but I'm going to love having it."
Absolutely.
And so anyway, I've got the gun that I killed my first white-tailed deer with when I was 13. Yeah. So thanks to Bill. But that's a real memento. One that my kids will enjoy having forever. So.
And I know a little bit about your kids, and they can understand and appreciate your love and everything for the things that you've done. And
yeah, they will. One of them in particular, but yeah, they will.
Yeah, so. No doubt. Jerry, we're going to shut this thing off. I've got a long way to drive, but I want to come back again, and I want to pick out 2 or 3 of these and just have you start telling the stories about this one and that one and that one and that one. And looking around the room, we got a lot of days when he'd do that kind of thing.
You know this as well as any hunter. I may not remember the names of my grandchildren or my children or my wife, but I can tell you every detail about every animal in this room. So please do. I would love that. I just love seeing you. We don't even have to do that. Just come back anytime.
Well, we'll do that, and that gives us an opportunity for me to come back into this room and really admire a lot of different animals. But thank you so very much for...
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
Being with us. And for those of y'all that don't know, Jerry's long been involved in all kinds of wildlife conservation and been involved with the DSC Foundation as well, too. And on the board there and treasurer and so many other things having to do with wildlife conservation. And Jerry, thank you for doing that. And I want to remind people that we got the DSC Gala coming, the DSC Foundation Gala coming up. I think it's July the 17th. They're at the Gaylord in Grapevine, I think it is. But you can learn more about that by going to dscf.org and look forward to seeing you right here around the campfire again, and we'll look for the first opportunity we can bring Mr. Baker right back here and tell another hunting story or two. We'll see all of y'all next week. DSC's Campfires has also been brought to you by the Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, Texas Wildlife Association, Habit, Our Gear, Your Adventure, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.
Explore historic waterways in 2025 with Scenic on the most inclusive cruise on Europe's rivers. Enjoy up to 5 dining experiences, spacious suites, and butler service. Be immersed in the culture with enriching free choice excursions and exclusive events. Scenic in a class of its own. Book now and save.
Hey, what's up, happy people? This is Robert Arrington from Deer Meat for Dinner. If you're into bow fishing like I am, you need to check out Cajun Bow Fishing. I've been using their gear for years, from the Sucker Punch Pro to the Winch Pro Reel. It's tough, it's reliable, and it works. Whether you're just getting started or you're ready to take the step to the next level, head over to CajunBowfishing.com and check out everything Cajun Bow Fishing has to offer. I trust their gear because it works. So if you're hitting the water soon, make sure you're rigged up with Cajun Bow Fishing. You will not regret it.